All right, ready to get heavy.
Let's do it.
Today, we're diving into Death's final studio album, The Sound of Perseverance, from 1998. We're talking technical death metal at its peak, and we're going deep into the lyrics.
Which is interesting because a lot of people, I think, when they first hear Death, might not realize how much depth is there lyrically.
It's not just noise, right?
Exactly.
There's real depth and meaning behind those riffs.
Yeah, it's not just about being aggressive for the sake of it. There's a real intelligence to it.
And what makes it even more powerful is knowing the context. Chuck Schuldiner, the mastermind behind Death, he was battling brain cancer while he was recording this. So it's like he poured his very essence into this music.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our guide for this deep dive is a lyrics website called Metal Storm. And it's funny because they have everything. It's not just death, news articles, reviews. They even have, get this, a metal quiz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll save that for later, though. Right now, it's all about the sound of perseverance.
All right, let's get into it.
So when you look at the lyrics across the entire album, what are some of the main themes or ideas that jump out at you?
I think one of the things that really struck me when I was revisiting this album for this deep dive was this idea of struggle and defiance.
Okay.
There's this sense that Chuck he's really grappling with some heavy stuff, but he's not backing down, you know? He's staring it right in the face.
And that comes through in the lyrics.
Absolutely. Take, for instance, Scavenger of Human Sorrow. You get this really vivid picture of somebody who's just feeding on negativity.
Ooh, yeah, that's a heavy one.
Yeah, and it's a theme that actually pops up throughout the album. You see it in Bite the Pain, Spirit Crusher.
Right, right.
But here's the thing. Chuck's not just describing these forces. Yeah. He's urging us to resist them.
It's like a call to arms.
Exactly.
But instead of fighting with, like, weapons or whatever, it's like we're battling these inner demons, these negative forces that are trying to drag us down.
That's a really good way to put it.
And it's interesting because he's not preaching at us,
No, not at all.
He's not saying, like, this is the right way to live your life. It's more like he's posing these challenges.
Exactly.
And he's inviting us to kind of find our own strengths, find our own way of pushing back against the darkness.
And I think that's part of what makes it so powerful.
Especially when you consider, what he was going through personally at the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got this theme of struggle, of defiance. What other lyrical threads run through the sound of perseverance?
Well, one that I think is really crucial, and maybe not as obvious on the surface, is this search for truth.
Oh, interesting.
Like this idea that we're constantly being bombarded with, information with different perspectives.
Misinformation even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to sift through all of that and find what resonates with us, what feels true.
And that's a theme that runs through a lot of his work, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Even going back to the earlier Death albums, there's this sense of, like, questioning, of not accepting things at face value.
Right. And I think on the sound of perseverance, it takes on this added weight because of what he was going through.
Right. Like he's really wrestling with these big questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's talk songs. Where do we even begin?
There are so many powerful tracks on here, but one that always gets me is to forgive is to suffer. It's such a powerful statement.
Yeah, it's not exactly a typical song title, is it?
No, not at all. And the lyrics are even more intense. There's this one line that it hits me every time. To forgive is to suffer. Throughout our time, a thought escapes us. To enforce a word, no.
Wow.
I mean, he's really grappling with some heavy stuff there.
He's questioning the whole idea of forgiveness.
Right. Is it even possible? Is it even something we should strive for? He's not giving us any easy answers.
And that's what makes it so compelling, right?
Exactly. He's not preaching, he's exploring.
What's really interesting to me about this, here we are, we're talking about death metal, right? Which, let's be honest, can be a pretty aggressive genre.
Yeah, it's not exactly known for its subtlety.
But the lyrics, they're so introspective, almost philosophical.
It's like he's using this incredibly intense, brutal sound as a way to explore these really nuanced, complex ideas.
It's like he's saying, yeah, I can scream my head off, but I can also think deeply about the human condition.
Exactly. And that's what makes death so special.
They shatter those stereotypes.
Absolutely.
Okay, brace yourself.
Oh, boy.
Because Spirit Crusher, this is where things get dark.
Yeah, this one's intense.
I mean, the title alone, right?
Yeah.
It's like Chuck stared into the abyss and spat back this song.
It's raw. It's powerful.
What's going on in this track lyrically?
This song is about those forces, both internal and external, that try to diminish us, try to silence our voices, try to crush our spirits.
And we all encounter those forces in different ways.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's, somebody telling you you're not good enough, or just those negative thoughts that we all have in our own heads.
Self-doubt, yeah.
Exactly. And I think Chuck, being in the position he was in at the time, he was probably feeling that on a whole other level.
Absolutely. Facing his own mortality.
Exactly.
But even though it's a dark song,
right.
It's not without hope.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
There's this undercurrent of defiance, of fighting back against those forces that are trying to drag us down.
It's that refusal to be a victim that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the technicality of the music comes in.
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's not just noise. It's like this sonic representation of that struggle, that inner turmoil, the complex riffs, the furious drumming. It all builds this sense of urgency, this feeling that you're caught in this maelstrom of emotions.
It's like the music itself becomes a metaphor for that internal battle.
Exactly.
You've got to talk about story to tell. This one feels so intensely personal.
Yes. It's like he's bearing his soul on this track.
Yeah, it's raw.
And vulnerable in a way that you don't always hear in death metal.
Like he's saying, listen up, I have something important to say.
Yes. And it might not be easy to hear, but it's real.
There's both defiance and vulnerability in that, which is amazing.
Exactly.
One thing that surprised me when I was looking at the track list for The Sound of Perseverance was Voice of the Soul.
The instrumental track.
Yeah. It seems kind of out of place in an album that's so lyrically driven.
That's a great point. And it makes you wonder, what's the purpose of an instrumental track on an album that's so focused on lyrics?
Right. What do you think Chuck was going for there?
Well, for me, it's a moment of reflection. You've just been through this emotional ringer with these incredibly intense lyrics, and then silence.
Like a breath of fresh air.
Exactly. A chance to process everything you've just heard.
Or maybe it's meant to evoke an emotion that words simply can't capture.
Oh, that's interesting. You think?
I do. A feeling of overwhelming sadness, maybe? Or a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Like he's saying, I've given you everything I have in words. Now feel this.
I like that a lot. It's like a wordless conversation between Chuck and the listener. It is, and it's one of the things that makes this album so powerful.
So much more than just music.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we get totally lost in the instrumental abyss.
Right.
Let's circle back to some of these other incredible songs.
Sounds good to me.
Let's talk Flesh and the Power It Holds. That one really jumped out at me.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
What is Chuck getting at with this song?
It's all about temptation, man. That pull of, earthly desires and the struggle to kind of keep it all in check.
It feels super relevant, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially today. It's like we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us to indulge, to consume, to just give in to every little whim.
There where you look, man.
And it's interesting because I don't feel like Chuck is coming at it from like a judgmental place,
No, not at all.
It's more like he understands those desires. He's felt their pull, but he's also keenly aware of the potential consequences, right?
Yeah. Right. He's not saying don't enjoy yourself. It's more about like finding that balance.
Yeah.
Recognizing the power of those desires, but not letting them completely rule you.
Which is honestly a pretty mature perspective.
Yes.
Especially for a genre that's often associated with, excess.
Yeah, you said it.
Okay, there are 2 more songs on this album we have to talk about.
Let's do it.
First up, Bite the Pain. That title, it just hits hard, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's pure aggression.
It's like this refusal to be a victim,
You nailed it. That's exactly what it is. There's this one line, it gets me every time. Instead of the kill, I will not feed your hunger. Instead, I bite the pain.
Oh, man.
Gives me chills.
It's like he's saying, I'm not going to let pain control me. I'm going to control IT.
Yes. Take that power back.
And not even just control it, but almost like use it as fuel,
Oh, absolutely.
Fuel for growth, for transformation.
And again, when you think about what Chuck was going through at the time, it just adds this whole other level to it.
It's beyond inspiring.
It really is.
It's like he's turning his own personal struggle into this universal anthem of resilience.
Precisely.
Okay. And then there's Painkiller, the Judas Priest cover.
Talk about a curveball, right?
Right. We're going through all these deep introspective tracks and then bam, this blast of pure adrenaline.
It's like, whoa, did they switch albums on me?
Right. It almost feels like a different band.
And that's what's so cool about it. It just shows that Death wasn't afraid to have a little fun, to experiment, throw a little chaos into the mix.
And it's also a nod to their influences, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Those roots in classic heavy metal. So it's like a tribute, but also maybe a way of saying like, hey, we can do this too, and we can do it our own way.
Exactly. And I think it adds another layer to the album's message, you know? It's like Chuck is saying, yeah, life is full of pain and struggle, but there's also joy, there's release, there's this raw energy that we can tap into.
It's like a reminder to not take ourselves too seriously, even when things get heavy.
Which, let's face it, they do.
They do. You know, one thing that really strikes me about The Sound of Perseverance is how Chuck was able to take this genre, death metal,
Right.
which is often, let's be honest, misunderstood.
Oh, yeah.
Or even demonized by some people,
For sure.
and use it to explore these really profound themes.
He really did something special.
It's incredible, right?
It is. He took this raw, aggressive sound and he infused it with heart, with intelligence, with this depth of feeling that I think a lot of people just wouldn't expect from death metal.
It's like he saw the potential in the genre.
Right.
The potential for it to be more than just noise, more than just brutality.
Totally.
He saw it as this canvas for exploring the human condition.
In all its messy glory.
And that's what makes this album, The Sound of Perseverance, so groundbreaking.
It was not just music.
It's a statement.
Exactly.
It's like he was saying, yeah, this is death metal, but it's also poetry, it's philosophy.
It's a reflection of his soul.
And when you listen to it through that lens, knowing the context of his life, his struggle, it's just, it hits different, you know?
It takes on this whole other level of meaning.
It does.
It's like a testament to the power of the human spirit to find meaning, even when things are really, really dark.
It's about facing your own mortality.
And saying, I'm not going down without a fight.
And not even just fighting, but creating.
Yes. Yeah.
Pouring your heart and soul into something that will live on, you know?
Absolutely.
And that's the power of music, isn't it?
It really is.
It transcends language.
It connects us on this, like, primal emotional level.
Exactly.
And I think that's why The Sound of Perseverance, it still resonates with people all these years later.
Absolutely.
It's not just an album. It's an experience.
It's a journey.
A journey into the depths of what it means to be human.
And it's guided by, I mean, you can't deny it.
Sure.
Chuck Schuldiner, one of the most innovative, uncompromising voices in metal history. It's that reminder that even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
there's always beauty to be found.
There's always strength.
There's always a story to tell.
And sometimes the most brutal music can be the most cathartic.
It's like Chuck Schuldiner took death metal and made it human.
You made it art.
So if you haven't already, I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but
Right.
go listen to The Sound of Perseverance.
Do it.
And not just listen to it, but really listen to it.
Oh, I like that.
Pay attention not just to the music, but those spaces between the notes.
To the silence.
Yes.
Because there's so much there.
Listen for the echoes of his struggle, his resilience.
His absolute refusal to give up.
And ask yourself this.
Yeah.
What does The Sound of Perseverance sound like
To you.
to you? That's going to stay with me for a while. And there you have it. Another deep dive complete.
Another one for the books.
Until next time, keep exploring those hidden depths.
Keep the music loud.
And most importantly,
What's that?
keep those ears open. Yeah,
And those minds.
you got it. See you on the next deep dive.